All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started here. So let me do some introductions real quick with the panel we have. All right, so this webinar is put on by the American Watchmakers and Clockmakers Institute. It's a free service we're offering to the watch repair community, and we hope you can take a moment at the end of this webinar to participate in a follow-up survey, which will help us develop future surveys and hopefully work out some issues we may have. This is a fairly new medium for us, but we're grateful that you can bear with us and experience this with us. So throughout the webinar, if you do have any questions for any of us, feel free to submit them on the questions pane. We do have somebody on hand who can answer your questions immediately if it's something easy, or we can have it saved for the end if it's something that we want to put a little bit more discussion into that we can have at the end of the webinar. So today, today's topic for the webinar, we're going to talk about procedures that you should follow when you receive a watch from a customer at a retail store. These procedures are valuable whether you have a watchmaker in the store or whether you send your work to be repaired at a trade shop or even back at the manufacturer. So before we want to get on this topic, I'll take a moment to introduce the members we have on the panel here. We have three 21st century certified watchmakers with us. My name is Aaron Rexick. I'm a fourth generation horologist and the current secretary of AWCI. I work at a family-owned watch and clock business in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I've been working in the watch and clock business since 2002. We have Jordan Ficklin, who's a CW21. He's the executive director of AWCI. He is a first-generation watchmaker. He began working in the jewelry industry in 2001 and has served in many roles, including everything from jewelry and watch sales to head watchmaker. We also have Andrew DeKaiser, a CW21. He is an independent watchmaker who owns and operates High Cascades Precision Watchmaking in Sisters, Oregon. He's a member of the CW21 Administration and Assessment Team, and he also serves on the Horological Times Committee. Andrew will be here to help answer your questions, and Jordan and I will be the two running the webinar. So if you have any questions, Andrew will get to you, and or we'll address them at the end. So we'll have Jordan start off with the beginning of the content of the webinar.
Thank you, Aaron, for that introduction. Following proper take-in procedures in your workshop or in your store helps protect you from fraud in the case that somebody may present you something and then come back later claiming that it is something other than what they presented you with. It helps protect you in the event that there's some kind of an accident in your store, like a fire or something that might cause the loss of some items. It improves the likelihood of your being properly compensated in the unfortunate event of an insurance claim. Helps protect you in the case of burglary or fire. Helps keep watches from getting mixed up when they come out of the job envelopes. Reduces the number of estimates refused by the customers. Helps in quality control, and it makes your watchmaker happy. This last one should be given a lot of importance because good watchmakers are hard to come by. You certainly want to keep yours happy. And then all of these items here also contribute to a more profitable repair shop. So some of the most important elements of a proper procedure for receiving watch repairs, I'm going to run through them quickly, and then we're going to go into a bunch of detail about these things later on in the presentation. You should have a good job envelope or repair contract or repair ticket that should include a thorough and accurate description of the timepiece and should have a declared value for insurance purposes. At the time of take-in, there should be a good inspection of the watch to identify any damage or problems with it. You should set the customer's expectations at the time that you receive the watch. And you should take this opportunity to upsell the customer. Service is wonderful. It can be profitable, should be profitable, but this is an opportunity also to sell other items.
All right, so now we're going to take some time to outline each of these elements that we've talked about so far. First up, we are going to go through the job envelope. In today's modern world, obviously most of us probably track our repairs on a computer, and repair tickets are generated automatically via the computer software. Whether you use a computer software or you write paper tickets in an envelope, you should always generate 3 copies of the repair ticket. So we have a poll here that will show up on your screen that we're going to, that's associated with that. We'd like as many of you as possible to participate in our poll. But you can do that as the presentation goes on. We won't stop for that. So if your repair ticket envelope is filled out properly, you should be able to dump all of your jobs out into a pile and get everything back into the correct envelope. What information should we put on the repair envelope? Well, obviously you want the customer's name, but you also want to have multiple forms of contact information, not just a phone number and their name. You'd like to have preferably multiple phone numbers and an email address. You want to have a repair number so you can track the job, a description of the article being left, a declared insurance value for the item, a thorough description of why the customers left the item for the repair, and the customer's repair requests. Any pre-approved repair amounts should be written on there, a limitation of liability, a customer signature, and anything else that the watchmaker, either in your shop or the watchmaker you send work to, asks you to provide to them to help speed up the process of the repair and the estimation process.
So before we go into those in detail, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the poll results here. 90% of you have voted already. I'm going to go ahead and close down this poll and go ahead and share the results with everyone. So you should all be able to see now that 78% of you voted that you do use a job envelope that has 3 copies of the information. 22% of you do not.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. So as you can see with that, I mean, that's good that 78% are doing it, but it should be, hopefully we would want it to be closer to 100%. So that's one of the reasons why we're having this presentation today. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail about the bullet points I just went through as far as what we should have on the repair ticket. So customer name and contact information. Obviously, we need to have a way to reach the customer. These right here are kind of on the screen, the general information you would require: name, address, phone number, cell phone, email. It's always a good practice to ask which preferable contact method that your customer uses, because that's going to get your quickest response. So repair number, that's obviously so you can track and locate the item. Most modern repair tracking software generate a barcode, but just make sure you have a good system for organizing and tracking your repair numbers. Then we can move on to the description of the article being left. So this should get quite specific on every job. We should describe the color of the metal, not necessarily the material of it. The shape of the watch, is it round, is it square, is it rectangle? The style or model of the watch, the size of the watch, is it a gentleman's, is it a lady's, what is the diameter or the height? A lot of watches nowadays, it's hard to differentiate the gender between the watch, so it is good to get into the practice of just writing the dimension of the case and the size of it. The style of the bracelet and the strap, the color, the material. So, if you have a link bracelet, or you have a mesh bracelet, or a leather strap, is it brown? Is it, what is the leather material made out of? These are all good things to put on each and every ticket. The color and style of the dial, is there numbers? Is it Roman numerals? Serial numbers and style numbers, anything inscribed or written on the back of the watch or on the front of the watch should be something that's written down on the repair ticket. Number of links on the bracelet. It's a big sticking point with certain bracelets, and You should always keep track of how many links are on each side of the bracelet, on the 6 o'clock side and on the 12 o'clock side, not only so we know that all the links are going back with each watch and each bracelet goes with each watch, but that the bracelet is oriented for the customer's wrist, and that's their preference. Condition of the watch. So I think you need to have a loop that you use to inspect the watch. At least a 5 power. That gives you sufficient magnification to be able to see most of the problems that would manifest themselves to the watchmaker. Things like dents and scratches on the case, cracks or chips in the crystal itself. That obviously could make a big difference on the estimate of the repair. It's good to run a fingernail around the edge of the crystal, be able to feel if there's any kind of hesitation there, and you know that there might be a chip or a scratch there. Damage to the dial in the hands, whether it be from moisture or from previous repair. Is there anything missing? Is the crown missing? Is a push button on the case missing? Is the crystal or the hands missing? We need to make sure we document these things every time we see them. Also, another issue is scratches on the case back from a tool trying to open it, or scratches from previous removal or installation of the bracelet underneath right there on the lug.
So when you describe the watch, we talked about the color of the metal and the shape of the watch and these kind of things. Here are some of the words, the best way to describe some of these items. So you should say something like yellow metal or white metal, not gold or steel or platinum specifically. You don't want the customer to come give you a plated watch. You write down that it's gold. They come back, you give them back their watch, and they go, no, like, the repair ticket says I left you a gold watch. This is a plated watch. Most people are good and honest, and you won't have that problem, but there are people out there looking to defraud you, and so you do need to be careful of that. You should say red stones or transparent stones, not rubies or diamonds. Until you've taken the time to test and ensure what those are, you don't want to put anything down in writing. You should describe the watch brand using language like the dial marked Cartier, not saying it's a Cartier watch, or a president style bracelet, not a Rolex president bracelet. This is all to protect yourself so that you can give an accurate representation of what the watch was when you received it before you have the chance to verify all this kind of information. So a picture is worth 1,000 words, but it's not entirely adequate. We highly recommend you consider including a picture on your repair ticket. If you use a point of sale software that allows you to take a picture when you take it in, by all means, you should be snapping multiple pictures of the watch when you receive it. But these pictures don't eliminate the need for the person taking in the watch to perform a thorough inspection and to make a thorough description of the watch on the job ticket. All right, we've got another poll here. Whether or not you use pictures when you take in the watch. So if you can go ahead and respond to that, we'll move on just for a second and we'll come back to this answer in just a minute. So here's a picture of a watch. I snapped it at the point of when I received it from the customer. It looks like it's a stainless steel Rolex GMT Master 2 watch. That's what that picture tells you. Open up the back. You'll see inside this is a counterfeit movement. So the picture says it's a Rolex watch. A good description would say it's a watch marked as Rolex. And then you could come back to the customer after you had a chance to open it and say, actually, your watch is counterfeit. And they say, well, no, I left you a genuine watch. It says right here on my repair ticket. And you can say, no, it says on your repair ticket that you left a watch that was marked Rolex. This is the watch. And the more information you have, the more you can avoid those kind of accusations. So looking at that poll there, let me close it out. 95% of you voted, and we'll share the results here with you. So 63% of you are taking pictures in your shops when you receive watches. 37% of you are not. In today's world, we can talk about this a little bit. It's so easy to snap a picture. If you've got some kind of an electronic system, there's probably a way to do that through the software that you use to track repairs. If not, you can lay out a job envelope next to the watch and snap a picture with an iPad or a cell phone or something. Then you'll have both the job number and the watch in the same picture. Then you can come back later at the end of the day and file those away in some kind of a computer organization system so that you can retrieve those later on. All right, so I'm going to give some examples here of some good and bad descriptions of a watch. So this first at the top is a poor description. It says, ladies, 18-karat yellow Rolex watch with president bracelet and blue dial. Usually when you receive the watch, most people aren't going to have 100% confidence that it's 18-karat, that it's actually a Rolex, that it's a genuine bracelet or genuine dial. So a better description would include the information on the bottom half of the screen. Ladies yellow metal watch marked Rolex with president style bracelet with 12 by 15 links. That'd be 12 links on the 12 o'clock side, 15 on the 6 o'clock side, marked 79138 on the bracelet. Serial number not visible. Dial is blue with Arabic numerals. Crystal has several large chips. Bezel is heavily worn. Clasp does not close tightly. Bracelet is heavily worn and has large dents and scratches. And so the person taking in the watch should be doing a good inspection, observe all these things, put all that on the envelope when they receive it. Talking about insurance value here for a minute. The customer should be the person who declares the value of the timepiece when they leave it. But if you feel that their value is completely unreasonable, either too high or too low, you should try and guide them to an accurate value. Too high, if something does happen, you're gonna have to pay out that claim and your insurance company may or may not honor it. Too low, you won't be protected. Your insurance company may not back you. They may only back you up to the amount declared on the envelope. So if it's a $5,000 watch and the customer said it was $1,000, insurance company's only paying out $1,000. So if the customer's value is too high and won't lower it, you really have three options there. You could perform a full appraisal, of course, charging for your time to give them an actual value for it. You could do the work while they wait, where you don't have to worry about them coming back or the problems that might be involved in that, or you can simply refuse the job to protect yourself. All right, so in addition to describing the watch itself, you want to get a thorough description of why the customer is leaving the item for repair. This step is crucial in helping the watchmaker provide the correct service to the customer. Even if they're just bringing in the watch for a quote-unquote routine service, the answers to questions are valuable in understanding the customer's expectations for what they want out of the service. For example, please service the watch is not very helpful. We should find out, is the watch stopping? If so, after how long? Is it running fast or slow? How much time does it gain or lose each day? Do they just want it cleaned? Are they talking about the movement, the inside of the watch, or are they talking about the case? If it is experiencing some kind of problem, has the watch been dropped or received any strong shocks recently? Has it been exposed to water? When was the last time it was repaired? Is this a watch that's been 20 years since it was serviced, or is this something that was in 7 years ago for routine service, or just a month ago? So an example here, as I mentioned, please service the watch, not terribly useful to the watchmaker. But it's something that says the customer states the watch has been losing 1 minute a day and the watch stops overnight. Customer is very active and wears the watch all the time. He first noticed the problem 3 weeks ago after returning from Scotland on a golf trip. Watch was purchased in 2013 and has never had problems before. This is going to give an indication that, okay, it's a fairly new watch. It should be running good, but he's experienced some kind of problem where it's stopping or losing time. What could have caused that? Well, this was a very good person working the repair counter who got to know the customer. That golf trip, maybe something happened there. There's something wrong with the oscillating weight with the winding system of the watch. Now the watchmaker knows where to look, and he's going to be able to turn this repair around faster, probably less expensive because he's got clues on where to look. It's going to benefit the customer in a lot of good ways. So then the last thing here is the customer specific request. If the customer says something like, do not refinish the case, that needs to be on the envelope. Maybe they just want the crystal replaced, or maybe the crystal has just got some minor scratches in the anti-reflective coating, and the watchmaker wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but the customer really wants a new crystal. Okay, good. Put it on the envelope. We can include that in the estimate. Maybe they want a different bezel, or they want to change the dial color, or maybe it's been flopping around on their list and they want you to size it a little smaller to fit a 7¼ inch. Any of that kind of information also can be on there and can be included, rather than they coming back when they pick up the watch and you learning that there was also some other stuff that they wanted done at the same time. Pre-approval. You can save yourself a lot of effort if the customer will agree upfront to any necessary repair costs, up to, say, a set amount. So you might say to the customer, hey, my watchmaker can give an estimate, or this looks like it's going to be a routine service. If you just approve anything up to $800, then we can get the work done faster. So we've got another poll for you here to find out how many of you do go for pre-approval option when you receive repairs in your store. While you're doing that poll, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. This is an example of a limitation of liability statement. This comes off of a Jewelers of America job envelope, but works for watches as well. This is the kind of stuff you should have to limit your liability from the customers. So we're not going to read through that, but we'll leave it up on the screen while you do this poll, and you can read through what it says there. So 76%, I believe, was the response there on the poll of those of you who do that. We'll go ahead and continue now.
Okay, so 3 copies of the repair ticket. First of all, the reason that we have 3 copies of the repair ticket: 1, the customer will receive a copy. 1 copy stays with the job. Even if the job leaves your shop, that copy needs to stay with the job, because that contains the instructions and descriptions of what is going to be done with the job. And 1 copy needs to be kept separate from the job and separate from the customer. So 1 copy is archived in a fireproof safe or vault to help with insurance claims in the event of a burglary of the item with one of the copies of the tickets, or loss of that copy. If the only tickets exist with the watch and with the customer, and the one with the watch disappears, you need to have another backup of the record. Even if you have electronic records, you need to update that 3rd copy separately, so you can always keep a record of what's the current condition of that watch. So, customer signature. The customer needs to acknowledge the description is correct on the repair, or on the watch, the authorization to perform the requested work, any payment that might be due, and limits of liability, like we showed earlier. So once the repair ticket is properly generated, okay, we just did that one. So inspection of the watch. We have a video here that we'd like to show you that will kind of go through a scenario of how to perform the take-in procedure with a customer.
When the customer comes in the store, give them a warm greeting. Place out a counter pad for them to put their watch on. Ask them to explain any problems they have been experiencing. Be sure to get as much detail as possible. Is it gaining or losing time? When did the problem start? Inspect the watch with a loupe and note any damage. You can use your fingernail on the crystal to feel if something you see is a scratch or a chip. Show the damage to the customer, and set expectations of what the watchmaker might recommend in the estimate. They should have a good idea of what the price of the repair might be when they leave the watch. Count the number of links on the bracelet. Be sure and narrate what you are doing in order to set the customer expectations. Take a picture of the watch front and back using your point of sale system, or even with an iPad with the job envelope in the picture. Be sure and get a close-up shot of the dial. You can use an inexpensive macro lens to get close-ups of any damage. Write down their instructions and requests on the job envelope. Wrapping the watch in tissue shows the customer that you will take great care of their watch. Have the customer sign the repair ticket. And be sure and let them know when you will be calling with an estimate.
Inspection of the watch and the procedures to go about that during the customer interaction. So you never want the customer to leave or leave the customer before performing a thorough inspection of the watch that's being left for repair. What are you looking for with the customer there? So obviously any indication the watch is counterfeit, that needs to be determined before the customer leaves the watch. Any damage or evidence the watch has been dropped, dents, especially in the crown, you know, it's the most fragile component that's protruding from the case, so that needs to be looked at closely. Moisture damage, does it look like there has been moisture inside the watch, or does it look like there's a possible crack or something in the crystal that would obviously get moisture in the watch? Are there cracks or chips in the crystal? Damage from previous repairs, such as scratches on the case back, scratches on the underside of the lugs from removing the spring bars improperly, scratches on the dial and the hands. All of that stuff needs to be looked at under the loupe. Also, damage or aging to the luminous material on the dial. It's a well-known fact that luminous over time will age and get brittle and crack, and it'll kind of start to fall out in pieces on the dial. Obviously, that's maybe not something that was done improperly in the past or something was damaged, but it's just a fact of aging, and that needs to be pointed out. So the customer's expectations of what kind of estimate they're going to get are known beforehand. Worn or damaged links on the bracelet. You know, how much droop does the bracelet have? If you hold it up on its side, how much does the bracelet, at what degrees does the bracelet turn over on itself? So unscrew the crown, or if it's not an not a screw down crown. Just pull it out and see if you can wind the watch and set the watch.
So when you receive the watch in for repair, this is an excellent time to set customers' expectations. So by doing what Aaron just mentioned, inspecting the watch, if you're narrating to the customer what you're doing, it's an opportunity to point out the damage. You're showing to the customer, hey, there's a crack in your crystal. And this makes it so they're not surprised when the watchmaker calls with an estimate. If they know when they drop off the watch, you bring it to their attention that the crystal is chipped or cracked. When the watchmaker recommends a new crystal, they're not going to be surprised. Oh yeah, you mentioned it was cracked when I dropped off the watch. That makes sense that he would recommend a new one. Same thing for scratches, damage on the dial. We want to make them aware of this kind of stuff. You want to treat every watch with respect, even if it is a Timex or an inexpensive watch. One way to do that is to wrap the watch in tissue paper before you place it in the job envelope, even when you're receiving a dirty, beat-up watch. That shows that you care for and you're going to be careful with the timepiece. Wearing gloves when you receive the watch or when you return it to the customer indicates that it's something special that you want to take care of. Now, one of the mantras out there is to under-promise and over-deliver. Don't say your watchmaker is going to do some amazing, incredible thing. Set the expectations in the right place, and then if the watchmaker does more than that, then the customer will be absolutely thrilled and pleased. The customer should be aware basically what the range of charges are when they drop off the watch. If your minimum repair cost is $200 and the customer doesn't want to spend more than $50, there's no point in going through all this work to receive the watch, send it out to the watchmaker, come back with an estimate that's way too high for them. So it's good to feel out the customer a little bit. Give them a kind of range. If you know that your watchmaker insists on a full service when a crystal is cracked, and they just want the crystal replaced, let them know, hey, our watchmaker is going to ask for a full service on this watch. It's probably going to be however much money that's going to be. Prepare that stage ahead of time. It makes it so much quicker and easier when the estimate comes in if the customer had an idea what to expect from that before they got the call. Gives them a few days to think about it and make that call. Yep.
All right, so upselling, what does that mean? Are we trying to offer something that is not needed for the watch? No, that's not it at all. There are certain things that obviously a watchmaker, for being experienced, is going to recommend for the watch, and so these are just certain things that's better off for the watch to perform these actions at the time that it's already in your store for service. So first off, being water resistance. A lot of places will just change batteries. Obviously, that on a lot of watches, that's okay, and that's really all the customer wants. But we should give them the option of water resistance testing and replacement of gaskets, whether it be crown gasket or a case back gasket. If it is marked water resistant, you should offer, or sometimes insist, depending on the grade of the watch, that the opportunity to perform those maintenance service exists, and the water test to protect the timepiece will bring it back to its factory standards. So that's obviously the number one, probably most utilized upselling. Leather straps or new bracelets. Leather straps are often worn and dirty. If it's in there at your store at the time and you have a selection of straps, it doesn't hurt to offer, hey, would you like a new strap on this? That's a definite opportunity to drastically improve the look of the watch, but then also, make a little bit of extra money on the repair at that point. So new bracelets, obviously same situation. A refinishing service. Sometimes, watches come in and they're really beat up, especially if they're worn on a wrist with other bracelets and stuff like that. Refinishing can be a very stark improvement to the look of the watch, and that's something that you can offer as well. Obviously, we don't want to refinish watches too often, but in some situations, refinishing is a viable upselling option. pocket watches, for example, a lot of pocket watches are extremely expensive to repair. A lot of people won't spring for the cost of the repair. It is an heirloom, though. However, we still want to respect it. So a good something to upsell at that point would be a dome for the pocket watch, so they can, while it may not be functioning at the time, or they may have just gotten it serviced at your store, they can display it there as a family heirloom and give it the respect that they want to give it. Watch winders and storage cases, same type of thing. You can offer those to people who might be of interest to those, or possibly a new watch. If it's a repair that may not be feasible to the quality of the watch, or a repair that might be more expensive than the customer is willing to spend, obviously, having a selection of watches at that time to try to sell them would be a definite benefit to the store.
We want to thank all of you for joining us for our first webinar today. Clearly had a couple little technical issues that we're still learning and working out. We're going to go forward these, but when it comes to proper take-in procedures for receiving watches for repair, following these practices are going to help you eliminate many potential problems. They're going to make your repair department more efficient and more profitable, and they're going to make your customers happy.
Spend more money.
And I'm sure you're all aware that happy customers spend more money.
That special occasion.
Now, in just a minute, we're going to address some of your questions. But first, we want to take a second to tell you a little bit more about the LWT Alumni Association.
We do want to take just a minute to talk about
so the LWT Alumni Association. We represent more than 100 professional watchmakers who are graduates of the Lidditz
Our mission
Watch
is setting service standards.
Those of you that may be familiar, the Lidditz Watch Technicum is the most prestigious watchmaking school
multiple ways we do that, things like
North
this
America.
webinar that we're doing today.
This association, we serve as a way for graduates to build their network across the entire 12-year history of the Lidditz Watch Technicum.
All about watch repair and clock repair.
And the Alumni Association, we are
previously
currently
available
an
only to our
chapter
members,
of the American
but now it's also available to anyone who wants to purchase it for $99 a year. You can go visit
so
our
AWCI,
webpage,
or the American Watchmakers Clockmakers Institute, is a professional organization with more than 1,500 members across the United States and throughout the world. Our mission is setting service standards and educating the horological community.
Ohio, as well as to our affiliate chapters around the country.
Some of our most valuable resources include the Horological Times, which is our monthly publication focused on watch and clock repair, continuing education classes for everyone from the beginner to the advanced horologist, 21st century certifications, which give employers confidence when hiring a watchmaker and give consumers confidence when leaving their timepiece for service. Access to more than 10,000 technical documents, an amazing research library, and museum. And we invite you to check out our webpage. It's www.awci.com. Where we will have, in the future, not quite yet, some webinar archives. We've got educational videos there. We've got a list of our continuing education classes.
To the standards required by industry
and of course, we invite you to join AWCI and be a part of this wonderful organization. If you're looking for a watchmaker, you can visit the Career Center on our webpage and post an ad for a watchmaker there, or the Find a Professional section, and find our member watchmakers who are working throughout the country.
Membership in our organization also gives you access to more than 10,000 technical documents on our webpage and in our library, and access to our research library and museum. A lot of information at our webpage. We encourage you to go there and check us out. It's www.awci.com. One of the things that's there is our Find a Professional directory, which will help you locate a watchmaker near you. And our Career Center, if you're looking to hire a watchmaker, help you connect with one of our members who might be looking for some employment at this time. So I just want to pop up this slide quickly about some upcoming webinars we've got. We just wrapped up this week the Customer Reception Take-In Procedures webinar you've been in. Next week on Wednesday and Thursday, we've got some workshop security information, how to keep yourself and the items in your business safe. And then the week afterwards, some quality control. You've received the watch, you've sent it out to your watchmaker. Here's some things you should know before you give it back to the customer, which will help make their experience better and reduce the number of comebacks that you have with your repairs. Again, a big thanks to our sponsors, Jules Burrell and the Casker Company. Please remember them and think of them when you have any jewelry or watch tool material needs. Go and check them out.
All right. So we've got some questions that people have posted throughout the webinar. Let's address those now. If you have any questions that you've thought up since and you haven't put them in there, please put them on there, and we'll be here for a few more minutes to answer you guys' questions. Let's welcome back Andrew DeKaiser, who's been working behind the scenes of the webinar. He's been answering your questions throughout, and he's got the questions that you guys have asked, and he'll ask us those now.
Hey guys, we actually had some really great questions this time around. Matt asks about using some different software to track the jobs, because he uses paper forms but is interested in looking into some software. So I went ahead and put in the chat box a couple that we can recommend. I know Aaron uses Repair Tracks. A lot of jewelry stores and watch repair businesses use the Edge. And a quick Google search brought up this Repair Pilot that looks fairly promising. But I would suggest you kind of sample them, because there's a lot of options out there. These are just 3 to get you started. But kind of sample them and use them if they have a trial. See how they work for your business, what you like and what you don't like. And there's a lot of options out there, so we'd be able to choose something that would work for you best. Aaron, do you want to comment a little bit about Repair Tracks?
Yeah, so the Repair Tracks, I've been using it for about 6 months now. Started it January 1. It's very customizable. You can add different criteria that you would like for it to capture for you. You can have it do different options as far as printing out receipts and what you want printed on the receipt. And then you can also have automatic notifications sent, either text message or email to the customers. I have really liked it so far. So far the complaints are is that it takes longer to enter in jobs than previously before. But clearly, when you're handling high-end business, it should take you a little bit of time to take the stuff in. So I think it's just a little bit of learning curve with that. But I really do recommend that software. Repair Tracks, TRAX, with and that contact them. They should be able to help you out with whatever need you may have.
All right, thanks, Aaron. We actually had 2 other really good questions from Josh and Matthew about when you take in a watch, what if the customer does not know the value of the piece and official appraisals are not done in-house? I know Jordan mentioned a couple other options, but could you guys, maybe Jordan, speak to that a little more?
This is a great reason to have somebody in your store who's a watchmaker, who knows watch business, who can help guide them to that. But there's always going to be the instance where it's not just a Rolex and it's easy to come up with a value. Just a quick Google search will tell you that. What if it's an old pocket watch? It's a brand you're not familiar with. You don't know if it's collectible or not. What do you do in that point? You do your best, right? Go a little bit high. This is an insurance estimate, so you would tell them, hey, realistically, this is what I think that probably would cost you to replace in a retail situation. You're just going to have to guide them. And if you find out at any point during the process that it is much more valuable than what they left, that's an opportunity to go back to the customer, update that information, protect yourself by updating the value information there on that form. But you can't always 100% know the value. So obviously, if you've got someone who does appraisals, you can do a little research there. You don't want them just guessing, but you have them throw out a number, and if you feel like it's in the ballpark, great, go with it. That's why you have them specify that. That way, they can't come back to you and say, "Hey, you lost it, but now I learned it's a $10,000 watch." Put it on the customer. Really tie them down to a value.
All right, great. Thanks, Jordan. Randall asks, what about watches that are mailed to you and the customer isn't actually present for you to do the inspection in front of them.
So I guess I can take that. This is Jordan. I do know several watchmakers who do a lot of web business. They receive a lot of watches in through the mail. And in order to protect themselves, many of these individuals will actually set up a camera and opening the box and doing the inspection. Now, do they share that with the customer? No. But they have that on file should they need to later on. It makes it difficult to set customer expectations, do all that kind of stuff, but at least you've got it recorded. This is the condition the watch was in when I received it. So they set up a camera right from the moment they open the box. Everything's there. This is what was in the box. We checked through the peanuts. We made sure there was nothing extra in the box. We inspected it. They keep all that archived on a video, because if you're doing internet business like that, you don't have that same trust relationship when somebody's standing across the counter from you, and so you need to protect yourself with that kind of being able to file away a video like that.
That's a good idea. Okay, our last question comes from Victoria. Is there a transcription or recording available of this webinar that you could reference at another time?
So yes, we are going to put together a recording of this. We had some technical glitches. We need to go back and do a little editing, but hopefully within about a week's time we'll be able to post up a recording of this on YouTube, which will be available, and we can send an email out to everyone who participated in the webinars, letting them know that it's available for you, and then you can share it with other people who work in your store or go back and review some of the items at that point in time.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and for participating in the webinar.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and I encourage you to go right now and register for the other webinars. They are free, and if you know anybody else that might benefit from the future topics over the next couple of weeks, please, feel free to share it with them and get them to register.
All right, thank you, everyone.